A guy gets drafted, signs a pro contract. He's living the dream. Maybe he's a basketball player or a baseball player, even a football player. Stays with the team for a few months, and 6 months later, the roster spot's gone, the money dries up, and he's wondering what's next. 23 years old, wondering what does he do? He wants to continue playing sports. So he does the thing that nobody thought was possible. He goes back to college. And the NCAA says, hold up, you signed a pro contract. You're ineligible to play in college. But a local judge files an injunction against the NCAA in favor of the athlete. So the athlete gets to go back and play until the NCAA says if you continue to play, then those losses and those wins won't count towards the team. So now we're left in a pickle. I want to be upfront. I agree with the NCAA on this one. I find that strange because the NCAA has been very untrustworthy in a lot of cases. They have plenty of criticism. But I've been tracking these cases. You have Diego Pavia, you have Nnaji and Bediako. There was running a thread in all of these things that nobody's talking about. We're going to talk about that today. Real cases behind the pro athletes wanting to go back to college. And why college was never supposed to be a marketplace, but was supposed to prepare you to go into a marketplace. But we keep extending that runway. Stay with me today on Red Letters Rewind. Real quick, before we get into this episode, you want a free devotional? Drop the word faithful in the comments, and I'll send you a free 5-day devotional that links your faith with your sport. Drop it below, and I'll send you one. Now, on to the episode. Let's talk about the purpose of college, specifically college athletics. College exists to prepare people to go out into the marketplace and get a job in their career, whether that's in athletes or in other fields. So a scholarship does not automatically mean a salary. You have an eligibility window that you have to abide by. 4 years at a college should be the standard. It should not be the destination. But what we have a situation now with NIL that changes everything. Now, I'm all for players getting paid fairly. But what has happened is you have big time money. And when you have big time money, everybody wants a piece of the pie. Unfortunately, we can't stop the money. And so we've had lawsuits against the NCAA that has ruled that college athletes deserve part of the pie. And I agree with that. I think the main problem, though, is the money. It's become too big. College athletics was never supposed to be a business, but it has become a business. The issue is when you have those same players that have gone pro and now they want to come back because they can make more money in NIL than they can in some minor league leagues. But it's not completely fair. We have to talk about fairness and we have to live on a fair playing field. Because what's right for one person can't be right for the other. The illustration I want to use, say you have a 15-year-old baseball player and he fails to make his high school team. So he wants to go play travel ball with a 12U team because, they fit more of what he wants to do. Nobody's going to allow that, and everybody can see that it's wrong. We're kind of dealing with the same thing when we talk about college athletics and these professional players wanting to come back once they've signed pro contracts and maybe have failed, wanting to come back and play in college. It's a fairness issue. So let's talk about the 4 cases. Diego Pavia first. So this one's a little bit different because Diego Pavia never actually left college athletics. What he says is that his junior college years when he played should not count against his NCAA eligibility because the NCAA does not govern over junior college. Now, you can argue one way or the other. I would tend to lead towards the old school way, but I'm an old man. So I do believe once you're past high school, anything past that should count towards your eligibility requirements to continue to play college football. But I could see the argument the other way to where, yes, the NCAA does not govern that. Maybe the issue is we should have something above the NCAA that actually governs eligibility, but we'll save that for another day. So I can see Diego Pavia's argument on why the NCAA should allow him to play, and they did. I still stand on my stance that the NCAA and college athletics is there to prepare you for your career, and arguably so is junior college. The other case is James Nnaji. So he was drafted 31st overall. He played professionally in Europe and in Barcelona, and then he was granted eligibility to start afresh after that. That argument is that he was never in college, so he should still be able to come back to college in order to give him a second chance. Again, there's definitely an argument there that his eligibility didn't run out, but in my opinion, that clock starts running once you sign a professional contract. Then you're saying that you're ready for your career and that college is not the route that you want to go. Now, this one's the one that hits closest to home here, and that's the Charles Bediako case. So this one, he played 2 seasons of college football at Alabama. Then he went pro, signed a contract. He played for some G League, but he never actually played an NBA game. So he goes back to college in Alabama, and the coach says let him play. Again, money, right? Alabama, they want to make that money. They want to win games. That coach wants to not lose his job. So he wants to do anything he can to give him advantage to keep his job and to make more money and all those kind of things. But Bediako says, the NCAA says, Bediako has no right to come back to college. In Alabama, if you play him, he's ineligible and you have to forfeit your wins. So he sues. And you have a court and a judge in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that says, yes, you're right, and I have an injunction for you against the NCAA. So they played him. And so the NCAA comes back again and says, you can't play him because he's going to be ineligible. Long story short, they ended up pulling him back off the team until another judge could rule another way, and it's just a whole mess. And then the fourth case, you have Amari Bailey. He actually played in 10 NBA games. So he says he left UCLA with, quote, unfinished business. Okay, honest, but unfinished business in the pros doesn't get resolved in college. And all these things are fine. These are arguments that everybody's made. If you've listened to any sports podcasts or watched any ESPN or hot takes or anything like that, they're all going to make the basic arguments that I'm making against the basketball players in this case and football players in Diego Pavia's case. But I think it's a deeper problem that we need to look at. This isn't just a sports story. This is a symptom. We've built a culture that is extending adolescence into adulthood. We're calling it compassion. So the case for letting these guys continue to play is because you have compassion that they should be able to play the game they love. And they should be able to do that in a way that makes them maybe a little bit more money or feel a need that they have, or maybe another shot, or anything you want to fill that by. But nobody's filing lawsuits on the 18-year-old who signed an NIL contract and to go to play college football and then loses his roster spot to somebody else that gets an NIL deal. Nobody's filing lawsuits for this 18-year-old that decides he wants to go out into the real world and get a job and can't. Nobody's filing lawsuits against those things. And I think that we're really trying to avoid making men men and making women women. Back 100 years ago, adolescence ended at about the age of 13, and then 15, and then 18. And now we're saying adolescence should end when you get a real job, and we're treating college kids like they're 13 again. And that's a very big problem that nobody's wanting to deal with. You have helicopter parents that are keeping their kids home too long. You have guys that are living in their mother's basement when they should be getting a real job. So this goes deeper than just sports. The underlying principle that the NCAA has is there's a season for being developed and there's a season for being a professional. And the same holds true whether or not you're a basketball player, a track athlete, an accountant, an artist. Those years were being developed as what college is for. And then you go into the real world and you join a profession. And those lines are continually getting mixed up now. And it's now that money has become such a big deal in college athletics. Collapsing that doesn't extend the opportunity. It erases the thing that made both of those things meaningful. Charlie Baker called it a theater of the absurd, and I completely agree. It has become completely absurd that we can't set rules and abide by rules because we won't allow someone to continue to be a kid. So in closing, we can tie all of this back to Scripture if you don't believe it. 1 Corinthians 13:11 says, and I'm going to read it, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child, thought like a child, reasoned like a child. But when I became a man, I gave up childish ways." That's not harsh. That's freeing. There's dignity in growing up. There's dignity in becoming a man or a woman, especially a man or woman of faith. So, if you agree with what I have to say, give me a thumbs up. And if you disagree with what I have to say, leave me a comment down in the section below and we can continue the discussion. I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button for me and go ahead and be notified when I put out new videos. I try to put out a video a week. We'll see how that goes, but that's my goal right now, is to put out a video a week. So if you're subscribed, you won't miss one. My name is Kevin, and I'm with Red Letter Sports, training for life, not just the game.